So what's up guys, and how you guys doing today? Today we will be changing NAT moderate inside our Call of Duty Warzone into OpenNAT for a better gameplay experience by changing some settings inside our router. So now let's go into the router and see what setting that we need to change to help us in a better gameplay experience. So first of all, we need to identify our network type. So there are some couple of types that we have inside our home network. So this is a diagram of that. So normally, if you're getting internet from your ISP router directly, then the setting that we're going to change is called DMZ. So the DMZ setting should be enabled only on your ISP router. But if you are using dual routers, so in this case, you're getting internet to your ISP router, and the ISP router provides you a local IP address like 192.168.1.1, which is given to your personal router, and from your personal router only, you're going to get internet to your LAN network. So in this case, you have to change settings on both your personal router as well as your ISP router. So the third option is called bridge mode. In this mode, you're getting internet to your ISP router, but the ISP router is not giving you any IP address because currently it is set to bridge mode. What it does is it will pass through every connection that is coming through to your ISP router directly to your personal router. In this case, if you are getting a public IP or some sort of a public IP address, that IP address is directly given to your personal router, then the personal router is doing the routing and it will be assigning the IP address to your home network. So in this case, you have to only set the DMZ setting on your personal router. So my current network is running in the dual router mode, where the internet is given to my ISP router, then the ISP router is doing some routing functions, and the ISP router provides me an IP address like 192.168, and my personal router then again routes it and gives me a IP address to my LAN network. So today we will be doing these configurations in the dual router mode. So the first one and the third one are much more easier because you need to only do the configuration inside the single router, but in this case I have to do the setting on both my routers. So let's see how to do that, and let's see whether we can improve our gameplay. So first of all, we need to log into our router. So I have both my ISP and my personal router to log into. Before that, we have to do some configurations or take some steps before enabling a DMZ. So this is my personal router that I'm using. So this is the router where I get IP addresses to my LAN network. Before enabling DMZ, we need to check the IP address of our gaming PC. So let's go to our network card, go to status and details. So currently I'm getting an IP address via DHCP. So normally inside your network you will be getting a DHCP IP as well, but the thing is that IP address is randomized. So for us to make it easy to configure DMZ, we need to set up a static IP address, or what we can do is we can assign a dynamic static IP address from our router. So to do that, we need to know the physical address or the MAC address of your network card. So this is my MAC address, and if I go into my router, inside my router I have an option called LAN settings. Inside that you should be able to see in yours as well something like this, where you can see the MAC address and the IP address that the router is given to you currently. So in my case, I have already set up my dynamic static option. So if you are not running that in your setup as well, what you need to do is you need to get the MAC address, go to add and assign the MAC address of your device and give an IP address to your PC that you want. It should be in your router's range. So in my case 192.168.150. something, and give a name that you want and enable. That's all. So if not, in some routers you have the option to directly bind them and change the IP address if you want to, or you can just use it as default. So in my case, for example, if I take this device, if I want to bind this 225 IP address to this Galaxy A20 mobile phone, I can just click bind, and if I scroll down and see, I can see that the device assigned to my manual DHCP reservation option or dynamic static option. And what it does is, every time that device turns on, this is the IP address that device will be given to. So I'm just going to remove this one because I don't need this. So already I have assigned my workstation PC to this MAC address and this IP address. So the IP address that you see here is already manually assigned via DHCP. So that is one step that you need to take. And the next step is you need to go to your internet settings, and you need to set your dynamic IP option to static IP. Now you need to do this step if you are running only the dual router mode. If you are running the ISP router or your bridge mode options, you don't need to do these steps. You can just directly port forward, or directly enable DMZ from your personal router or your ISP router. As I am running dual router mode, I have to set an IP address to my WAN interface. So if you don't know your WAN router's IP address or your ISP router's IP address, you should have an option to see that. So in my case, if I go to my system info, in here inside my WAN 1 option, it says that the connection is plugged in already and the type is dynamic IP address, and the IP address given to me currently is 1.106, and the gateway of that device is 192.168.1.1. To make sure that this is my ISP router, if I type my IP address on the browser, I can see that this is a separate router and this is a separate interface, so which means that this is my ISP router. So what I need to do is I need to change these settings into static. So I'm going to network, internet settings, and I'm going to change this option to static IP address, and I will be assigning an IP address in the range of my router and the subnet mask which is suitable for that specific IP range, and the IP address of my ISP router. And for the primary DNS as well, I will be assigning, let's say, 1.1.1.1, and for this one 8.8.8.8. So I'm just going to change the settings and click OK. It will take some time to reassign the things. Now if I go back to my system status and system info, you should be able to see the IP address as static and the IP address that we just gave. So these are the things that you need to set before you enable DMZ in the dual router mode. All the other modes you can just enable DMZ and change the stuff that you're going to do now. So as we have done those steps currently, we enabled our WAN interfaces connection type to static, and we assigned the dynamic static IP address to our PC. Now what we need to do is we need to enable DMZ. So first I'm going to change the setting from my personal router, which is this one, which is closest to my LAN network. And if I log into my router, as I have currently logged into, I can see the option under virtual servers. In your case, it might be under something called forward rules or something like that. So there should be option called DMZ host or DMZ. So click on that, and for my case, I'm just going to select WAN 1, and I'm going to say that this is the DMZ host. So the IP address that I have given is my IP address of my gaming PC or my workstation PC. So when I give this IP address, what happens is whatever the ports or whatever the protocols that are currently running or requesting things from the internet are enabled to access them freely without any restrictions. So that is what DMZ does. Yeah, for easy explanation, that is what it does. So what you need to do is just enable DMZ, give the IP address of your PC that we just assigned as dynamic static, and click OK. So afterwards, the next step is to log into our ISP router. So in my case, this one. I will be logging into it, and inside this one also I will be going into forward rules, DMZ configuration, and under this one I will be selecting new, and here my WAN name is this one. I'm just not going to change anything. So, and here they're asking us to select the host address, same as before. And for this one, what I need to select is the IP address which I just gave for my WAN interface, which is this one. So in this case, I have the MAC address displayed here. So if I select the MAC address, first one, I can see the IP address of my router that I just assigned, and there are some other devices also in this ISP router. So I'm not going to select those. I'm just going to select my IP address which is given to my PC router. So let's just select that one and enable DMZ and click apply. Now if the rules are applied correctly, what should happen is when you try to open and run say Call of Duty Warzone, before we saw NAT type as moderate, now we should be able to see NAT type as open NAT. So let's see whether that is true or not. If it is true, definitely you will have a better gameplay experience, and also you can do these steps for your PlayStation and Xbox as well, because those are also devices which are running many protocols. So instead of if you plan to do this to your PS5 or Xbox Series X, what you need to do is do the same steps except without giving your PC's IP address. What you need to do is you need to do these steps for your Xbox or PS5. So the IP address which is given to here should be the device IP address of your PS5 or the Xbox. So now currently what I did is I did it to my gaming PC. Now let's close this one. Now let's go to our Warzone application and play this and see whether the moderate NAT type is changed to open NAT. So now if you can see here, you can see before the NAT type was moderate, and now the NAT type is showing up as open. So definitely before, if you have some lagging stuff or something like that, now those lagging stuff should not be appearing, and you should definitely have a better gameplay experience by the simple step your home network. So I hope this was a very informative video, and if you have any suggestions in videos that I should do next, please leave a comment down below, and hope that you are getting a better gameplay experience. So leave a comment if it is a success or not, and thank you guys for watching, and see you around. Subscribe my channel. Have a nice day.